Let's do some mic check. Can everyone hear me like this?
Yep.
People in the back? How about that? You can hear me fine? Good. So if I wander around and just put my hands, you probably would see me and hear me. So that's good. Welcome to the second day. Hope everyone feels good. Quickly about me, my name is Vladimir. I'm based in Brisbane. I run the company called Tamara Elephant Studio. We do specialize in migrations, training, and automated testing. So I usually do global training days, so I do a lot of training around Australia. This year was probably the biggest one. So check me out on Drupal.org if you want to do some training. So today, without further ado, we're just quickly going to jump world of CMS, because you probably dominantly heard about one CMS in the last day and a bit, and we actually gonna change that and talk about a few other things. We're gonna talk about a few features of other CMSs, and yeah, then we're gonna wrap it up. So when we talk about content management system, we're talking about a few things, and we're talking about getting our content and presenting in some shape or form, right? We're talking about some basic editing. We're talking about taking this data that we edited, we put in some sort of storage and then presenting it one way or another, be it on your mobile phone, on your website, somewhere else, in your Internet of Things device. We're talking about some sort of interaction with data, so maybe some forms and also import-export. So we want to send our data somewhere, we want to grab our data from somewhere else. So this is where we enter a big world of content management systems. So for this particular presentation, I divided the content management systems currently available on the market into 4 categories. First one is simple open source systems. Second one is the complex open source systems. Third one is proprietary. And the fourth one is cloud-based. I also want to keep it as an open discussion, so if you have any questions, comments, feel free to interrupt me. Tell me about your experience, because the CMSs I'm going to talk about, I'm not very proficient with. I'm sure there are people who are very good at WordPress. So let's go back to our categorization. So the first type is simple open source. Has anyone used those type of content management systems before? So October CMS and Craft CMS, 2 very, I guess, rock stars of the last couple of years. They got numerous awards. October CMS is a flat file CMS, so you don't even need a database. Craft CMS uses Drupal model, connects to your Postgres or MySQL database. But the idea is the same. You have a simple editing interface. You probably need some sort of coding skills to get your CMS somewhere beyond the basic editing post, if you need to. But they also have a growing plugin network. So they actually, the extensions for them are quite popular and people putting them out there. So this is a simple interface of one of those systems. So this is October CMS. So you can see there is a blog post. You can click around. It's all, you can edit the URL, click a post. There is even a simple code editor. So here's another example. So you have a live preview. You can edit title, you can edit category, you can edit thumbnail, and you can edit the body with a simple WYSIWYG edit. Here's a bit more complex example. We actually, as I mentioned before, need to go and do a bit of code. So just a simple shop with the featured products. So why would we use something like simple open source CMSs? So as I said, simple edit interface. If you need a quick thing which you think will take, more, where you need to go somewhere beyond your landing page, you would probably need something like that. And growing number of plugins. So the extensions, down again. No. Okay, Stay away a bit. So disadvantages, limited features. So as I said before, probably something like a complex data reports a bit beyond those systems, but they get in there, so keep an eye on them. And usually developer required to actually take it somewhere beyond just a basic blog post or a page edit. So complex open source systems. Two examples I would like to talk about is Drupal and WordPress. I'm not going to stay here for too long because we all know what Drupal can do. What are the differences between simple and complex? So large community usually means they are quite mature. Secure and supported by either a company or a community, or both things. Yeah, I'll just do a quick switcheroo. Let's see if that's going to make any difference. Thank you. No, so obviously it's not the connection. So disadvantages of systems like Drupal and WordPress. Relatively steep learning curve, especially when you're talking to someone like a person who is basically entering the world of content management system or content and trying to put something online. Drupal is, from my perspective, is very hard to learn beyond the basic page edit. And can be time consuming as well, which comes out of steep learning curve, right? So you'll spend significant amount of time and you invest a significant amount of time to actually get somewhere. Okay, so proprietary systems, two examples is Adobe Experience Manager and Sitecore. Advantages, usually massive company behind and big support from that company, but that comes in your out-of-pocket expense, usually quite significant one. And there is a tendency, I see the tendency to lock you in into some sort of service, like with the Sitecore, or actually with SharePoint, it's locking you in Office 365 account, so on and so forth. So you get the idea. And last but not least, the cloud-based CMSs. Anyone use those? So a few more hands. So Keanu Reeves obviously did his job. If no one saw the ad for Squarespace with Keanu Reeves, check it out on the internet. So advantages, very simple, very user-friendly. Anyone can jump in and start editing the content and create quite a complex page very quickly. Cons, less flexible, hard to opt out. The whole model, from my experience, made you to kind of start putting add-ons in, and not necessarily easy to import, export data, but not always true. So any questions about those four types? Anyone want to add anything? No? So this is recent statistics from the whatcms.org. And as you can see, if we look at the actual numbers for every content management system that sits beyond 1%, online, so you can actually see quite an interesting trend. So WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal still top 3 CMSs, but you can see that number 6 and number 7, the cloud-hosted CMSs, are getting there. In fact, if you didn't know, they are not that old. In about 4 or 5 years' time, they actually get to the 6th and 7th position. As you can see, there is not many proprietary CMSs. In fact, there is none in top 12 CMSs that are used around the world. So today, what I'm going to focus, we're going to pick up a few features. We're going to try to build the small system, and we're going to concentrate on 3 systems. So WordPress, Drupal, and the Wix. So I'm going to show you the differences between cloud-hosted content management system as well as the one you're familiar with, so WordPress or Drupal. I'm not going to concentrate too much on Drupal because I'm just going to show you as much as I learned about 2 other systems. I'm sure you can go to another session and learn a lot more about Drupal there. And this talk was partially inspired by talk by WebChick from 2 years ago from Dublin called How Our Competitors Are Kicking Drupal Ass. I strongly recommend you. There is a link in the end of this talk. And it talks about how we can look at other CMSs and learn from them, what they do. Obviously, they're not just sitting there and also development stuff. So check it out. So a few disclaimers before we start. So this session is for information purposes. I'm not plugging in any particular CMS. I just want to show you what I learned in the last year by playing around with something different than Drupal. This session is about bigger picture, so stepping out of Drupal circle, making sure the site blinds are off, and seeing what's actually there and what's coming up. One more time. This session involves no coding whatsoever. It's only concentrate on subset of features. So we're gonna pick up 4 items and we're gonna go around try to create them. So it's by no extent it's gonna give you a full CMS kind of report and review, but you'll see what actually you can do with them. And this is more like an ongoing talk because you can bring other features and compare them. So I'm planning to extend it in the future. And the WordPress I'm using today is latest version. So WordPress 5 was announced it's going to be out in late November. It was delayed. So I'm actually using the latest nightly build of Release Candidate 2, which was out a couple of days ago. OK, so what are we trying to build today? So we'll try to create a simple page in Wix, in WordPress. And I'll quickly jump in Drupal just to see how it's different from those 2. Then we'll try to build a simple contact us form, right? So something simple, something probably any website, doesn't matter, any application usually have. Then we'll try to create, because it's a mini conference website, which I omitted before, we'll try to create a session submission, see how different CMSs deal with it if we'll try to submit a session, and then we'll try to create a timetable. Relatively simple ones considering time frame, but you'll get a head start if you want to just continue going there. All right, so let's jump and quickly have a look what do we have. Any preferences? Should we start WordPress, Wix? Come on. WordPress. Here's WordPress. So a few things here. So as a Drupal developer, I haven't used WordPress before preparing for this presentation ever, like ever. I installed a couple of times, but I haven't used it as a user. So I found the difference between WordPress and Drupal that there is a post event type and a page event type, but you can't go beyond that. Post is something like if you install Drupal, you have a basic page and an article. So post would be more like an article, and page would be more like a basic page in Drupal, right? So I want to start creating something like basic page, and this is where the modern interface is actually kicking in. So you can see WordPress, and you'll see it with Wix. They're changing your simple locked-in WYSIWYG model into more full scale, full page kind of editor. So you have a left navigation, right navigation, and you have a content in the middle. But usually you don't have a field by field thing. So that's a big difference here. So if we'll have a Drupal mini conf. So this is the editor called Gutenberg that they were plugging in for quite a while, and it's going to be a major editor for WordPress 5. So you can see here you actually start inserting content not from perspective of text, although you can go and start typing your paragraphs here.
So Vlad,
yep.
Gutenberg editor is just the WordPress editor.
That's right. So it was developed separately on GitHub, because WordPress development is still sitting in SVN. It was developed separately as a plugin on a GitHub just to give it a try, but it comes packaged with WordPress 5. So you can actually, it was weird because it was already there, and I went into the plugins and it would still say me install Gutenberg plugin. So I installed it, and all it did, it gave me this menu with giving a demo and stuff like that. So if you click on demo, it actually gives you a bit bigger picture of what you can do. But the idea is you have reusable blocks.
There's actually Drupal 8
Hmm?
version of it as well.
Yeah, but it's very, so, yep. There's a presentation from Drupal Europe where they just first presented it, so check it out. So it's, as you can see, it's different sort of features. So image with the text, a bit of edited text, and so forth and so forth. That's what example gives you. Then you have a small gallery. And as I said before, you just start building in different blocks. So from a basic paragraph and headline. And if you click, for example, on the headline here, like you have a basic editing features. You can switch it to a different type of a paragraph and change the alignment. Replace the image, convert it to a different type of things. Use the media library to replace one image with another. So very user-friendly. You can see it's very user-focused, and that's what it is. So I created a page for Drupal Camp Byron Bay here, and just quickly inserted a few things. So rather than inserting an image and a title separately like you would do in Drupal using separate fields, here it's actually kind of hidden on the back. You still can go and edit the HTML. So there's a code editor, and you can see there is a bit of a WordPress thing in there, so probably would make a nightmare for developer, but obviously is.
How tidy is the resulting code? Is it?
I didn't go any. I didn't do any estimation. I didn't even run any tests. I knew that from what I read on the internet, people would just sometimes would be hard to process something like that. If you are, so they do rely on a lot of comment tags, which is but.
When it was finished, when it's actually been processed, and what it look like.
You mean when you actually looking at the website? Yeah, it's going to be just your HTML. It's going to be using the templates and all that. So.
Is it how clean is the?
Let's have a look. But I would assume it would be pretty clean. Out of all three, probably Wix would be the most dirtiest one, the code I've seen. Well, that's the price you usually pay.
Yeah, it has a building when you hover over it, like in the list.
Sorry?
Oh, yeah.
So if you look at this image and the title here, right, this section here, so it has a figure. Inside the figure there's an image, there's a div, and there is simple H4 and P. Yeah, that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. And obviously it was built to actually, make sure you have the, to make sure you can extend it, right? So bring your components as well, and other people can bring your components. I think the Gutenberg Cloud, if you go and check out the Drupal presentation, there's the idea of Gutenberg Cloud, where there's a Gutenberg editor, and then you can install it either on Drupal or WordPress, and you can bring different new components there. We're gonna have a look at more components once we go to the other section, but I'll just quickly jump at Wix. So again, something here. Quite similar, so you can actually start adding new page. So the interface would be very similar to what we have in WordPress, just they went a bit further beyond and also included the structure here on the left-hand side. You can go and add page here. And instead of just simple text, you can also go to the add section and have the massive section here. So from your headings, as we did before, to more complex sessions like lists. So for example, if you go to strips, you can already pre-build strips. I think something that's very good, that's Drupal and WordPress are very lacking. So you can quickly start building something like that, about us, you know, mini conference, something that looks very nice. So I found for rapid prototyping, it's probably the best tool to use. If we publish it, and have a look. So this is how it looks. So nice. Already had a few things that probably other CMSs like WordPress and Drupal wouldn't have. So I think the biggest win of using Wix is they already have images, already have some content to use. So for example, if you're not happy with this particular image and want to edit it, you can click change background, strip background. You can choose image, color, and video. You can go to images, and it's a similar interface to media library in WordPress and Drupal. But also you can actually go and have a free from Wix. Put something like conference here. Right, so you have a bunch of smiley people doing stuff there. You can also go to Shutterstock and buy image, which approximately costs like $3 an image as well. So this is where I told you they start locking in a bit. They are much nicer, and you can even, you know, here go like Canberra. And off you go. So $3, so image, and you already have a Canberra. So put in website for the for the landing page for the conference. Very simple, very quick. I built my my website. This was done in probably under like 6 hours, really. So if you look at the complexity here, it's pretty simple. Just blocks here, but events are dynamic. They're actually driven from a database. There is a blog and contact us form. So excluding the dynamic sections was very quick and very simple to put in up there. And I think as a plan, you would also get something like a domain there. So back to our Wix editor. So the page I created was DrupalCamp 2019 here. So you can see simple, again, the sections I put in. You can go and edit particular text. The problems I found with Wix as well, there is it's not very responsive. So here it will actually detect. So it uses its obviously own detection, and it's not gonna change or anything. But if you open it on a mobile, it's gonna look completely different. So there are two modes there, and you cannot change that. So there is a mobile mode. So you can go and start modifying each individual item, how it looks. So if you want a bigger font, for example, you start, building your font bigger, and it's only going to be applicable on mobile. So it's not really responsive, and it's not mobile first, what they do. But you can have two completely different looks for mobile, not mobile, but just loading the same page. So again, something very simple, something not very development oriented, but it kind of gives you, gives you a bit of flexibility and also ability to check how is it actually looking on your device. Yep, sorry.
With the Wix's built-in forms and stuff, how accessible are they?
That's a good question. We can just click through them over, but I found a few issues with the forms as well, which I'm going to go through. That's what we're jumping on next. So this is basic page editing. You kind of got an idea, but feel free to jump in a new WordPress. Is super simple to install. All you need just database in Wix here as well. If I'll jump out of the desktop again, clicking add, and just going through all this stuff is actually a lot. But talking about like locking in, there is a bunch of services they also try to sell you, you know, from bookings and forums, events, and so on, ticket sales and all that. So they're actually getting quite good, but everything else is from image galleries is free, so you can drag it, put the quickly images in, you can even make them dynamic. So the second part we're gonna look at is the form. So I'm gonna stay here on Wix for now. Here's the form I dragged before, but if you go to your add element, there is it's actually called contact. So you can go and select a specific form, can drag it around. Stretch it if you want to. I found the code is pretty dirty, so my first call would be it's probably not that accessible. But we'll click through them and see what's actually happening. So you can manage fields. So you click here. There is a simple field editor, which is quite nice. So you have email, name. As I said, it's very simple. So you can make it optional, make it compulsory. You can rename it or delete it. If you're talking about field types here, it's an email, phone, address, and custom text. Really, they do sell a plugin. They do sell a plugin for the forms. But sorry, I just trying to make it right, so I'm sure that I'm not talking about WordPress. So they do sell a plugin for the forms, but you only get, I think, 100 submissions, and it makes it dynamic. It makes it linked to a spreadsheet. But yeah, 100 submissions. But they sell unlimited submissions and ability to download the results for about $3 a month additional. But the thing is, you can actually implement everything that they have in the plugin for free if you do a bit of a code development. So we're going to link the form later on, and you'll see how you do it. So again, quite simple contact us form. It sends you to your email. They also, while you put in all this form, they also try to plug you their email system as well to lock you a bit more in. So yeah, you get the idea. So WordPress, any WordPress users, any favorite forms to use?
Gravity forms.
Huh? Gravity forms. Okay. So I use the WP forms because they actually first one that appear in the plugins, but as I said, the plugins there. So what I did, I said, okay, add new. So my experience for now with WP forms, so for free, they don't allow you to store anything in WordPress. So basically the submission just gets emailed to you, that's it. You need to buy them, starts from about $40 a year, basic package, which should give you all the basic form functionality that Drupal has. But the thing is, I bought the license yesterday, tried to connect it, muck around for like 20-30 minutes, couldn't connect them, so still wouldn't get the license. Just some feedback of how you use. So the Gravity form is not appearing in the main page. Is there a reason for that?
It's a paid plugin. I think you have to install it separately.
Right, so you can't find it there. Here you go. Yep.
Does the WordPress, do those plugins available not on the paid ones?
They do quite often. They don't sell directly through this app store kind of setup. They sell like privately. So pretty much everything that's on here is free or freemium.
Yep. Yep. And this is a very, very important concept to have about the WordPress. The WordPress community doesn't afraid to pay for the functionality, which is something different from Drupal community. We usually pay for the services, which is also good, but a lot of functionality we grab for granted. That's not the case in a lot of other CMSs. So I installed, so I'll try Gravity Form and see how it's different. So I installed the VP Forms, which is available from this plugin, and created two forms. So one was, you actually, if you go and add new form here, It goes to a completely different interface, but it's quite nice. It's drag and drop. You can, muck around with the fields, add new fields, and so on and so forth. While it's doing that, okay, so let's see if the existing forms. So you can see it gives us a shortcode for the forms I actually created. It gives a short form. There we go. So I'll type Google into Google. It works. Okay, so something happened, but basically, just to keep on going, I created the two forms. They feel quite usable. The editor is nice. It gives you, as I said, completely different interface, takes over. But then you can grab the form ID here, and you can actually put it in your widget. So as a part of the Gutenberg thing, you can actually say edit as HTML and put it instead of HTML. Or there is the whole different plugin. So if we'll go back to my page, which is Drupal, and edit it there. Go back to Visual Editor. Okay, so here, submit a session and contact us. So I put those two forms. There. For one, description is true and false. So you can see this tag thing. It kind of goes through whole WordPress. So I can easily embed WordPress form. For those who haven't played with Drupal forms, it's also quite an easy thing to do. So if you go download web form, which is free, it's probably one of the biggest extensions there right now. So you have a lot of components, and you can either display it as a standalone page, or you can create a field on your content type and embed the form there. So one of the examples I had on one of the latest projects is a competition. So competition would collect your name, first name, last name, email, and phone. So we use one form on all the competitions, and then we're able to, depending on which page in Drupal it was submitted, we were able to go and download the data for particular competition and send it to different clients. So how this one looks, so we'll go update view page. So here's our submit session form, and here's our contact us form. As I said before, I still weren't able to actually get it, accept my license key. Luckily, they have 15 days money back guarantee, so probably gonna take advantage of that. But if you'll go and entries, yeah, it says we're not storing your form results unless you pay us.
Does it store them and just hide them from you?
I don't think so. I think it just emails you.
So you can't retroactively get this.
Another thing I wasn't clear about as a newbie to WordPress, when I bought a license, they took me to the download page. And I wasn't sure if the plugin I download from WordPress is different from the plugin, because it says it's a pro version, but the name of the zip is exactly the same. So few things to fix there. I'm sure, if I'll muck around for a couple of days, it's going to become much clearer, but just some frustration is there. Although it looks like a legit solution, and there is a lot of good reviews for that, so take it with a grain of salt. So jump in to polish it off with the Wix. So Wix, actually, a lot of people don't know that, but Wix has a database engine. So you actually have a spreadsheet functionality like already there. You can go and create a new database, and you have a spreadsheet like form. And the interesting bit, you have a sandbox and live. So you can actually muck around with your content in sandbox and then sync it to live. Again, simple two-way environment, but so user-friendly that, like, from Drupal perspective, seems too simple. But when you're talking about 3-4 page brochure sites, even the conference site, it makes sense. You don't need 3 environments unless it's a much larger system. So the few things I found here, so it's pretty simple. You add the new field, then you select the particular type of field, and if you click at the types, there is a reference, so you can actually reference differentiate. You can go to, you can get image, Boolean, rich text, which give you a WYSIWYG editor. The biggest frustration was I wanted to build a blog on Wix. And a rich text field doesn't allow you to put images in. So if you're building a blog page in Wix, it's actually you would need to insert text and images separately. So when you make it dynamic, it just becomes a nightmare. So I found like there's no proper solution to actually build a blog page, and all the tutorials I went to, it basically says drag a text, put the text, drag an image, stylize the image. So do it manually. So you can't really use a sheet and create a blog yet. So, and then what you can do, you can go back to your page. And here, I created the form. So again, the forms in Wix are already kind of pre-built for you there, so you have a contact. This is not buying a plugin. So they also have a plugin which automatically links spreadsheets to the form. But here, I guess to make the plugin more appealing, they make it two-step process. So first, you need to drag the thing called dataset. So then you go and connect dataset to your spreadsheet, and then you connect fields in a form. And dataset can be write-only, read-only, and so on and so forth. And then you can go to a specific field and say, here's my data. Please connect it to this title text. So if I actually go and try to edit this page, so it's going to be try to be on this page. So here's our contact form. Here's our session. So session 10 a.m. Text submitted. So you can see there are some artifacts there. That's another thing that they kind of make it hard for you to do. So they have a concept of error message and success message, and you actually need to create a field, create a text, and link the text to this. Otherwise, you'll get this message success or error message for every field that was submitted, because for every connection that you get to a spreadsheet. And they don't make it very clear, so it becomes a bit more frustrating when you do it. But it didn't take me long to actually figure it out and do that. So the last bit is actually getting all these details. So let's go and actually see. So here's our Drupal camp database. So we're looking at the moment in Sandbox. But what I submitted was in live. So I'll go to live. So this in live data view, you cannot edit, but you can see my 10 a.m. session. And you can go build forms, submit it to a spreadsheet, download spreadsheet as a CSV, or actually do anything with it. Or even here you go, some other plug, buy something for something. Yep, so you can copy it to Sandbox, edit it the way you want it, sync it back, off you go with the existing thing. So for my website, I try to do sessions here. It's a funny thing. Looks like the connection, write connection and read connection, if you create two separate connections, they kind of interfere with each other. So I weren't able to create the list of sessions, but I went to a different database and that worked fine. So if you go to the homepage of Tamara Elephant Studio, this the events here, so training, Drupal South, and a meetup, they actually are running from a different spreadsheet. And this is an event spreadsheet. And all I do, you have a small filter. So, and then I'll just go and click published, particular event. And it changes automatically on the front page. So, few more words about actually displaying the data in WordPress. I found there weren't many options for me to display the data. So if you look at my page, I managed to get. So let's go edit this one. I managed to get a few sessions in there. So I created the posts, and posts were actually of particular type, but I weren't able using the interface to, apart from grouping the particular session, like for example something for 10 a.m., I weren't able to display any more information apart from the actual title. Come on, don't damn me. And yeah, so that was limited, but it's actually a list that you can. It's actually a list that you can also insert using the Gutenberg here in the widgets. It actually says latest post, and you can go and create the timetable as well. Any question about that functionality, kind of displaying different things and looking at the things differently? So to wrap it up, so I think from creating a simple page, WordPress and Wix getting 5 stars and Drupal getting 3, 3.5, just because we're liking that modern interface with a bit more user-friendly. As a developers who sit in Drupal almost every day, it's fine, but if you get a new person and show them Wix and show them Drupal, there's gonna be, you probably know what to expect from them. So creating a form, I would get Drupal 4.5 stars. So we're still getting to the point where it's like perfect, but it's still much better than experience in Wix and WordPress. Session submission, again, I was quite a bit frustrated with the WordPress. Wix doing just a bit better, and Drupal pretty excels in it, but you need to know a few things like permissions and all that stuff. And creating timetable, again, Drupal views is the best, but just slightly lacking, that kind of user friendliness to when we're using the views, but it's definitely much better than WordPress and Wix. So in conclusion, I heard lately you probably hear a lot about, Drupal is not cool anymore, PHP is not cool anymore, but let's look at the stats really. Top 12 CMSs, 8 of them are PHP, 8 of them are open source. And so in the end, PHP is not that bad, really, if you look at it. So to wrap it up, I say go and try out a CMS, see what they do, see how we can improve Drupal. Sometimes your choice of CMS is not always the best, so it's always good to know what's out there. And I'm still thinking PHP is very cool. So once we get one of these, I don't know, Node.js CMSs up there, we'll probably, we'll see what they like. But at the moment, it seems like there are only 2 types of CMSs out there that are quite popular. So one of the event we're trying to advertise is Drupal Camp Byron Bay. It's in April. The brochures are around, or come talk to me. I'll be here all day. And thank you for coming, and let me know if you have any questions.